Hello and welcome to the show. This week's Failrace versus the community, we were to go racing with D Class front-wheel drive cars. Our first race was at the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Things did not quite go so well for the leaders. I think a Fiat fell foul to the inside curb. The curbs around here are vicious. The Brands Hatch curbs are horrendous, and these kind of cars tended to struggle. I certainly in my Civic had a lot of issues. There were quite a few other cars as well that had some big issues with the curbs around here, so that was something to most definitely look out for as this opening lap unfolded. The Volkswagen Golf here was making a bit of progress through the field. A poor Prelude got himself slow through one corner, has got swamped by absolutely everything up ahead. Clio was trying to make a move on the inside of a Scion. A Civic had caught up to the back of that group as well. Fiat that had a big moment across the curb was again a little bit on two wheels, coming down turn one, battling with a Celica in turn, fighting with all of the cars ahead. Scion getting himself out of position and stuck out wide. Prelude makes a mistake mid-corner and everything is going to come flying past. My Civic started well down the order, but I was quickly joining in the fun up here. The Fiat tries to go around the outside, makes it stick on the Scion. Celica gets a wiggle out of the corner that dumps him behind this squabbling trio. Clio tries to get up the inside. There's not a huge amount of space at Brands Hatch, but everyone was trying to fit three cars into tiny bits of road. This was a huge group of cars on this opening lap fighting for position. Scion managing to just about make a break for it. The Fiat covering the inside vigorously, making sure there was no space for the Celica to have a look. The Clio having a look for the outside around turn one, but that's very, very tough manoeuvre to do around this track. It's almost 3-4 wide up towards turn two. Everyone was sensible about it through this corner. They all fall just about into line. Celica gets stuck out wide. I spotted a gap, tried to get my Civic up the inside, ended up with a wheel on the grass. We got away with it better than Hamilton and Rosberg did, though. Going down to turn three, the Clio had made the move stick on the Fiat as we round up towards this final corner. I'm still squabbling with the Celica, the Abarth, having a look if there is anywhere that he can put his car. Can't quite, as we're three wide in the background, leaving that final turn. The Clio has managed to now pull away just far enough ahead of the Abarth so it doesn't have to worry about defending into the next corner. This particular Clio being a little bit unfortunate. A couple of laggy bumps had a slightly poor start for this car. Was trying to make his way back through the order, and an Abarth left a gap. And around this circuit, in these kind of cars, you leave a gap and you are very likely to be punished by losing a place. Sure enough, the Clio spotted the gap and had plenty of speed to get the move done and is far enough ahead to not have to worry about defending. This kind of track can often get stuck in battles for quite a while, and that was something that I was finding. My Civic was monumentally fast around the circuit. It's an incredibly quick car at Brands Hatch Indy. However, I was having trouble getting past this Fiat 500 because there are no real massive braking zones. There's not a huge number of actual overtaking opportunity. I say that there's not a huge amount of clear-cut overtaking opportunities. Turn two here is probably your best bet, and I do finally get a move done on the inside of the Fiat. The rest of the corners that are around this track is quite easy, or it can often be quite easy to hold it around the outside or get cutbacks working. Trying to get overtakes at times can be a little bit difficult, and I'd spent a good couple of laps until finally getting a clean pass done on the 500 Abarth. There was, as you would expect with this class of racing, plenty of wheel-to-wheel action. This Prelude was trying to make his way up the order, got a little bit into the side of the 500 coming down turn one. The Fiat is okay with going around the outside of turn two. This is the kind of thing that I was meaning. You hold it around the outside of turn two, well, that puts you on the inside for turn three. And the way that the track goes is you can often just kind of keep your car in a good enough position to hold up some of the slower vehicles behind. The Aprilia does a good cutback on the Abarth, though, to get the inside for the first part of this corner. Does get the move done, can just get ahead of the 500. The Volvo up ahead had pushed a little too hard, done a bit of rallycross. The 500 gets a fantastic run out of the final turn, but hasn't really got a huge amount of space to use it down here, and would end up having to fall back into line. Further up towards the front of the field, this was the battle for third place between a Clio and a Honda Civic. These 86 Civics were proving to be pretty damn good cars. The Civic gets himself to the inside with a better run out of the final corner. The Civics, though, did not tend to be the massively fastest cars in a straight line. Of course, it did depend on how you built them. This one here runs the Clio all the way to the wall, but the Renault has still got a huge amount of speed and does get his car back past as they go down towards turn 1. Now the Civic is having to try and go the long way around turn 2, and that is a hell of a long way to go around the outside of turn 2. If you can make that move stick, though, as I said before, it puts you on the inside for turn 3, which can be quite useful. The Clio wants to go for a cutback. It doesn't quite have the grip to carry the speed required to get to the inside of that Honda. The Honda can pull away just a fraction through these final couple of corners. A Civic better, slightly better, and we're already talking small margins here, slightly better through the turns and can get far enough ahead so that the Clio straight line speed wouldn't be quite enough to catch up. You see, I was caught up to the back of this group with my Civic. I was fighting with another one of these Clios at the front, and it was a Volkswagen Scirocco that would go on to take victory. A Clio in second place. One of the cars behind there was a lapped down car. But yeah, the Clio in second place kept the Scirocco very, very honest throughout the course of the race. In fact, by the end of the race, it was the largest gap we'd seen between the two cars. Yeah, the Scirocco would take victory from the Clio in second. The Civic coming home in third. I would get fastest lap by a fairish margin here. My Civic was mighty quick. I got stuck in battles, having a relatively poor grid spot. Yeah, the Civics were damn good at this track. They were definitely the car you wanted to have. Further back, there was a fantastic final lap battle. The 500 of Bath was trying his best to fend off the Celica. The poor Fiat had spent a lot of his race defending. The 500 hadn't been massively suited to this particular circuit. The Toyota having a look, but again, you know, the 500 doing its utmost best to defend that inside. Pretty much parks the car on the apex as they run through turn 2, still trying to defend. The problem is, though, when you start having to go very, very defensive, you end up taking very tight lines. It tends to make you quite slow off of the corner, and that was the problem the 500 was having. He gets the car just about across in front of the Celica, but there's still a huge amount of pressure as they round the final corner, and the 500 runs a tad wide. Kind of opens the steering lock, try to get as good a run as he can now onto the straight, but he has to surrender that inside line, and the Celica carries a lot more speed. Celica was very quick in a straight line as well, and the Toyota would get the position. 500 did his very, very best to defend that one on the final lap, but it was not to be. Race number 2, and we would head to the Sonoma short layout. There would be a large contingent of limos, not just because of their physical size, but there were 4 of them in this race. They are very difficult cars to overtake, and they tend to be relatively fast in a straight line. In D Class, you can get a fair amount of power in them, so it was going to be very curious to see how they would manage in a field, well, made up of hot hatches, pretty much. The limo starting towards the front had actually made pretty good progress. He was fighting with this Volkswagen. The Volkswagen wanted to get to the inside of the Clio. There was nowhere to go. The limo is around the outside at the top of the hill. That is a brave manoeuvre to do at the best of times, let alone when you're in a ginormous limo. A couple of cars doing a bit of rally crossing on that grass section. Now they're 4 wide. On the way down towards this next corner, Honda Civic pounces, makes up 3 places in one corner just from being in the right place at the right time. A very good opportunistic manoeuvre. The limo's fighting with an Integra and 850R. The Civic's already under fire, though, from the Volkswagen. Volkswagen tries to get alongside, but these corners are tough to overtake. It's very fast down here. Not much in the way of overtaking opportunities. The Punto's having a go, but as gets it to the inside, but the Volkswagen has managed to get clear of this little group. They were 3 wide through the S's at one point. The Volkswagen has a big dive on the limo. One area where the limos do struggle is under braking, especially into this hairpin. There's all manner of crazy behind as I have to try and frantically avoid ending up in the back of a Mini. The Volkswagen does get alongside the limo. However, the limo has the acceleration, and you really don't want to be stuck on the outside of the limo at a fast corner because, yeah, that is a recipe for disaster. A quite frantic opening lap for, well, just about everyone around this track, and the limo was continuing to make good progress. The Punto was continuing to fight with the Civic behind. Further back in the fields, the limos were making large distractions of themselves. This one coming under fire from an 850R. The Volvo getting himself to the inside and getting the move done at the hairpin, and that was by far the best spot you were going to have to overtake these limos because they were struggling under brakes. Thing is, the Cadillac would come back down the start-finish straight. It had decent straight line speed. It was around the outside of the Volvo at turn 1. The big question is, though, can you pull it up for turn 2? Just about. Almost gets away with it in this one. A little bit of a nudge from the Volvo because, of course, you take such a... When you go around the outside of turn 1, you end up on such a shallow line for turn 2. Limo was always likely to be in trouble. This group at the front was, well, pretty much mayhem. The limo and Fiesta were fighting over second place at this stage, and everybody else was, well, squabbling for every single position that they could. The limo side by side with a Fiesta through the S's. It's side by side between the 850R, the Volkswagen. I make it 3 wide as we come down towards one of the fastest corners on the track. Again, my Civic, very quick car around here. Had to be careful though. Curves were causing the Honda some issues. It did like going up on 2 wheels. I made the move stick on one of the cars, got myself to the inside of the Volkswagen and would get the pass done, and the Civic had great acceleration out of the turns. It was so much that I could draw alongside the Integra on the run down towards turn 1, and I was hoping I could make that move stick, because if you can hold it, we saw the limo do it, if you can hold it around the outside for the first part, puts you on the inside for the second part. Got to be careful though not to overdrive the corner, and I managed to get the car stopped and turn the Integra. Tried to go around the outside but couldn't really quite make that maneuver work. Now I would be off to hunt down the Punto, the Fiesta, and surprisingly the limo was doing really rather well as everybody continued to fight in that midfield group. At the front, a Celica was leading the way. Had very much been let off the hook in the opening laps while everybody shuffled and scrambled around over second place. However, once we had got free of traffic, the limo was gradually catching, and a big mistake through turn 1 was not what the Toyota would have wanted. It gets the limo alongside, and the limo can around the outside get the move done on the Celica. Toyota does go for the cutback over the crest of the hill. A good move from the Celica, however, he kind of gets forced a little bit of a tight line and is slow off of the turn, and that would put the limo up into the lead. And these cars, wherever they were in the field, were continuing to certainly make things interesting. A poor Fiat 500 could not get past the limo ahead. He was trying everything. And I said, these cars are very difficult to overtake. The problem is there is simply so much car that if you are, behind the limo, you've got to have a huge dive under brakes. Your vehicle has got to be phenomenal under braking if you are going to get a move done because of the sheer length of the Cadillac. The Fiat 500 does finally get himself to the inside as they run down into the hairpin, and this was definitely, in fact, this is the best overtaking spot, full stop on this track to actually get a pass done. It's a fairly big braking zone into that hairpin, and the Fiat 500 can get past, but then comes the Cadillac's strength, that speed as they come across the start-finish line. The Cadillac is again on the outside as we come through turn 1. This one quite out wide, probably wouldn't have made the move stick. The Fiat just brushes the tyre bundle on the inside there, killed some of his momentum, and the limo has found himself back past. And as we come through these very quick corners, it's terrifying being on the outside of a limo. So trying to actually get your car in a position to make a move stick on these was so difficult. The 500 goes for the cutback across the top of the hill. Again, pretty good positioning if you can get far enough alongside. You just didn't quite have the acceleration to do anything about the limo. Again, Fiat is to the inside, but is too far back. By the time they get to the turn, it's not close enough to have a big dive. I would imagine quite frustrating, trying to find a way past these cars. And I was certainly, in a rather similar situation here. At the front, me and the Punto had got ourselves up to second and third, and we were trying to find a way past the limo, and neither of us could do it. Problem was, both of our cars were slightly quicker than the limo over the course of a lap, but both my Civic and the Fiat were quicker in different areas. My Honda, very, very good under brakes, but it wasn't so good through these fast corners. This is where the Fiat was very, very fast. I struggled through these turns, especially with my Civic wanting to go up onto two wheels. The Fiat gets himself to the inside at this very, very quick corner. I knew I'd had a poor run through these fast turns, but we're coming up to my best corner on the track. Big dive from my Civic. I can get the car stopped and can carry a lot of speed through this corner, and I was massively faster than the limo through this final hairpin. But as me and the Fiat fought over second place, it wasn't really helping matters with us actually trying to get to the lead, because that little exchange had dropped both of us back from the limo. We'd wasted a lap essentially fighting one another, and that had allowed the limo to get a little bit further away. And try as we might, we couldn't get past the Cadillac. I had a good couple of laps trying to find a space where I could get a pass. I ran a little bit wide. I was throwing absolutely everything at the limo and couldn't do it. I had a wheel on the grass. The Fiat is again having a dive up the inside at that very fast corner. And now it's really a battle for second as we come into the hairpin. I have a very, very late braking manoeuvre. I knew I was going to run wide into this hairpin. I knew I couldn't let the Fiat outbrake me. I didn't mind if I was wide on the exit, because you can still be on the inside for this last turn, and I knew the Civic had a good acceleration. However, the limo would go on to take victory. Fantastically driven to keep both my Civic and the Fiat behind. We had quick cars, but the limo was so difficult to pass and wasn't so horrendously outclassed that we could simply drive around the outside of it at any corner. So yeah, well done for keeping a limo at the front of the field. Further back, there was again some good final lap action as this Integra was trying to size up the Celica for a pass as we come up towards the final corner. The Integra right on the bumper. You know they're going to have a big dive up the inside. I think the Volkswagen ends up in the tyre bundle, is very slow through the hairpin. 850R goes for a mega dive on a Clio, gets very close to the back of the Volkswagen. Gets the move done though. That's kind of what I was talking about with the running wide at that final corner. You can actually still do relatively well. The Integra would get the last lap position though on the Celica, as would the Volvo on the Clio. Our final race, and we would head to the Hockenheim short circuit. Well, we'd had limo, so it was inevitable that somebody would bring a Pontiac Aztek. This one actually started relatively high up the field as all manner of smoke and cones go flying through turn one. Yeah, the Aztek had a relatively good grid spot and a relatively good start as he found himself fighting with a Lancia Fulvia and would get the position back from the Lancia briefly as we come down this back straight. Lancia is to the inside and can carry that little bit more speed than the Aztek through the next corner. The Pontiac would then immediately come under pressure from the Fiat behind as two leaders were running very, very close together. But yeah, the Aztek wasn't getting immediately mullered by all of these vehicles. The Fiat has a think and gets his car just about to the inside of the hairpin though. If you can hold it around the outside of that hairpin, you'll get the sort of preferred line as you run up towards the second to last corner, and sure enough the Pontiac can do that, forces the Fiat to go the long way round. Still the Punto is stuck out wide. The Fulvia has managed to break clear and is chasing down, I think it's a Golf up ahead. Still the Aztek and Punto is side by side. Last three corners they've been side by side up towards turn one. Not a place you really want to be going too wide through here. Sure enough, they both run each other a little bit too wide through that section, despite the Punto going for a bit of gallivanting. You don't really want to come sort of cut across the curb to come back on the track if you have run wide, because the curbs are so vicious. Yeah, the Aztek was holding on. It only a matter of time before it fall to the Punto, but still was doing a pretty good job. Now, unlike the previous two races, we didn't quite have the same crazy groups at the front end of the field. It did get a little bit more spread out relatively early on. These two 850s were fighting very vigorously over their position as the dark blue car was trying every which corner he could to get his vehicle to the inside. It just wasn't quite working at this particular stage, and they run down towards turn 1, is a little too far back. And of all of the corners, turn 1 is the least preferred corner for trying to get any overtakes done. Down towards turn 2, a little bit too far back at this stage. The best of the action in this race would indeed go on at the front. Hyundai Veloster was leading the way from Celica. This Fulvia was keen to make up a position and had a go. It was a narrow gap, but the Fulvia got himself to the inside at the hairpin. The Celica tried to carry too much speed around the outside. You don't really quite want to end up out there, and the Lancia would move himself up into second place. Celica immediately under fire from the Golf. Had a look around, and at this stage there was really not much going on elsewhere. Outside this kind of top 5 group, not a huge amount was happening elsewhere. Most cars were driving around largely on their own. The Punto would be the next car to have a crack at getting past the Celica, getting himself to the inside at one of the fastest corners on this particular circuit. A good move. That's, yeah, it's a tough corner to go to. Not quite as bad as turn 1 through there, but, yeah, it can be a little bit on the dicey side at times. You certainly can't afford to run wide out of that turn. Nasty sand trap on the exit. But, yeah, that would put the Punto up into third place, and immediately the Toyota was back to being under fire as the Golf was once more having a look. Couldn't quite get anything done at this particular moment in time. Further back, we had another one of the Golf, this one coming under fire from an 850R, the Volvo, having a look if it could get away past. A great cutback into this second to last corner. The Golf just too much understeer around that final turn. You see what happens when the cars cross over the curves as well. Very easy for them to spit the vehicle sideways. That's why you'll tend to see people avoiding running along the curbs. I had got turned at the start of the race and was making my way back through the order. Got myself alongside a Fulvia. Left it a fraction too late to turn in, got a wheel caught on the grass, very nearly spat me off the track. Got my Civic back under control though, as we go side by side with the Lancia. I opted to go the long way round. My Civic actually, again, pretty quick here. Had issues with curves, but a pretty fast car here, and could get the move done. If you do hold it around the outside of that turn, of course, you get the slightly better line into the hairpin, and I could make the move stick on the Lancia. The Aztec was actually clinging on pretty damn well in 5th place. Over the course of a few laps, he actually started catching up to the back of the Volkswagen Golf. Was not quite what we were perhaps expecting from the Aztec. It was actually doing very, very well, as the Golf ran a tad wide on the way out of the hairpin. That would be all the invitation the Pontiac would need to get himself up into 4th place. Has to cover immediately. The Golf was very keen. They both take an incredibly shallow line through that second to last corner. Yeah, the Golf was very keen to try and get that position back, but yeah, you know, the Aztec was holding on a lot better than expected at the front, and the Punto had got himself into the lead, but was being chased by the Lancia as it came down towards the hairpin on the final lap. The Lancia was very quick. He goes for a very just about Lancia-sized gap. The Fulvia dives up the inside, can't get it stopped though, runs wide. Punto cuts back. Fulvia does a cutback as well on the exit. Unfortunately for the poor Fiat, it was the curse of the Hockenheim curbs. Ran the wheel over the curb, just spits the car sideways into the door of the Lancia. Yeah, these curbs are vicious. I was having big problems with my Civic up on 2 wheels at a large number of points. Not so much the whole spinning out, as we saw just happen to the Punto there. Unfortunate for the Fiat there, as the Lancia would take a victory. The Fiat coming home in 2nd place there, the Veloster in 3rd. The Aztec would hold on to 4th. So, yeah, curbs were a real pain in these cars, unfortunately. But that's one of the dangers of Forza. Had quite a lot of good fun, though. As ever, you know, these lower class races tend to produce a lot of wheel-to-wheel action and plenty of overtaking. My Civic was a really good car. I very much like that. So probably one of my best cars that hasn't won a race. I'm not sure if it's the very best, but certainly one of my best cars I've built that never won a race, but it was an incredibly competitive vehicle. Would highly recommend for a D Class vehicle. However, that is it for this video, guys. The next Failrace vs. the Community shall be held on Thursday, the 19th of May. We are going to go racing with B-Class cars that have no more than 250 horsepower. If you would like to sign up and take part, then you can via our forums. There'll be a link in the description. Find the Failrace versus the community section, and you will be able to sign up in there. But that is it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.